Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful day as we get things started here with, of course, we have a great guest, as we always do, but really looking forward to this one because, it seems like we've been on an augmented reality kick. We've had a couple of different companies, from content creators to companies actually making, the hardware for augmented reality. And, well, now we have another one that's, this is more of an end use, something that you can actually apply augmented reality, virtual reality, kind of in real time for your business. It's very excited to have them on, and we're going to be talking about a product called PLNAR. So before we get into that, a few things to mention, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find anything and everything having to do with today's show. Be it things such as a link to our guest website, be it any articles that we do later on in the program, anything and everything, computeramerica.com, all you have to remember. While you're there, be sure to check out the contest, which we partner with Logitech to do every single Friday to give a prize away to one of our lucky listeners. That's right. We'll be giving another one away tomorrow. And if you want to find out what the prize is, if you want to find out how to enter, again, Computer America. And the last thing is, well, we do a video portion. That's right. We stream live on the internet, and it's a lot of fun. Put a lot of work into it, and you should definitely check it out. It's not mandatory. We are still a radio show, but it's something that we're trying, and just another way to experience what we do here. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and kick things off and introduce our guest? So, like I said, he's going to give a full intro for just what exactly PLNAR is, just what smart picture technology. What kind of company they are, and happy to have him on. So, welcome on to the program, Andy Greff. He is the CEO of Smart Picture Technology. So, Andy, thanks for coming on the show.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun because, like I said, I think every couple of years the market goes crazy over new technology. I think like 5-6 years ago it was 3D. A couple of years ago it was the Internet of Things and smart, kind of smart and connected technology. Now a lot of companies are going crazy over AR, VR, and things like this. So happy to have you on to kind of be an expert on this. But before we get started in what exactly PLNAR does, give us a little bit of background on smart picture technology and yourself. I mean, how'd you get in, and I kind of like to ask this about our AR guests because you can't say, yeah, I've been doing AR for 45 years. It's how did you get into
right.
AR?
Absolutely. Okay, that's a lot of questions there. As far as background on me, I've been doing software for about 22 years, mostly enterprise software, telecom, healthcare. I have been in mobile since 2007 and building mobile apps since 2010. Some of the mobile apps I've created in the past as part of previous companies include the Olympics, NFL, some of the very high-end, immersive, consumer-oriented applications. So it's been very exciting on that front. Now, as far as Smart Picture, we are a startup out of Austin, Texas. Our whole reason for being is trying to generate measurements from smartphones, right? So the original intention was using a hardware appliance to plug into a device, and then we moved into measuring from photos, which is one of our most robust products that we have right now, that we were able to measure everything 2D and 3D from photos. So it's pretty amazing computer vision, hardcore computer vision system. And what happened was, with the release of Apple's AR kit, or at least the announcement of Apple's AR kit, which I'll explain in a second, in June, it provided us an amazing way to take the technology which before have been centered around taking pictures so that we could generate 3D models and take measurements, and moved us into the augmented reality space. It's a space that I've watched. I've done some previous apps in it before, and it was amazing to be able to, for Apple to give us the opportunity to be able to generate an application that immersed the end user into this AR world and then gave us a new input mechanism through the mobile app solution. So I haven't been doing it for 20 years. I have been dabbling around with AR for some time. Definitely not a VR expert, but been looking at AR for some time now.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's been exciting because I remember having a guest on the show. He was out of Israel. He had a company out of Israel about a year ago, and he was doing similar things, but he was focused on kind of clothing and measuring people. And I'm sure you've definitely done something in a similar field, but it's weird because what was kind of really, really hard maybe 4 or 5 years ago with the advancement of phone cameras and just general cameras, it's gotten easy. Like over the years, it's just gotten easier because you have better data, right? Like this field is advancing not just because of you, but just because technology in general is kind of ready for it.
That's right. That's right. I mean, with the dual cameras, with all of the sensors that they have in there. Yeah, people have been experimenting with it for a long, long, long time, and now with the chipsets that Apple's putting in there and Pixel and Samsung, they can process these things, and that's always been an inhibitor, right? The GPUs and the kind of the graphics processing and things required in order to really provide a great AR experience. And now, it's amazing that the processors can handle this, and now we're ready to move into this new world.
Yeah. So, and why don't we go ahead and get into this because you're here to talk about a product called PLNAR, which is obviously from your company, Smart Picture Technology. Give us an overview of PLNAR. Who's it for? What's it do?
Sure, absolutely. So the app is actually for consumers and for enterprises. It's built for. It's an augmented reality solution that allows, let's say you're a home products company or a property insurance company, and you don't want to send somebody out to go get measurements in order to sell them products or send them out to settle claims. It's a remote dimensioning solution that the end user, the homeowner in this case, can use our solution, tap, tap, tap. They can generate a full floor plan of a room or all of their rooms in their house. And as a result, they can get all the measurements needed to order flooring, rugs, carpeting, do remodeling, interior design, and of course, settle claims. So beautiful thing is for insurance providers, insurance carriers, nobody's really cracked the nut as to how to solve for a first notice of loss if you have some small water damage or fire damage in a house. For home product companies, let's say you need to go order tile, flooring, carpeting, across 4 or 5 different rooms. Well, you have to do that, the math to compute total square footage, all the perimeter that you need for trim, things like that, and we do it all for you. So from a consumer perspective, it's great. From a company perspective, a retailer perspective, it's wonderful because you're making it easier for consumers to buy from you. And from an insurance perspective, it's fantastic because this is moving you into that quicker claim settlement process.
That and I think a good place to kind of take this. And by the way, anyone watching the video portion, we have your website up, and people can kind of see an example of what the app would look like. And that I think for a lot of people, because there's a couple ways to do that with a phone. I mean, you could do something as simple as kind of walking it around the room, and then it uses it uses the sensors inside of it to kind of say, you walk 30 feet, blah blah blah. How and why does it use AR, and kind of why was that your solution?
Well, that's a great question. So in June, Apple announced something they call AR Kit. So if you Google that, you look at some of the videos. We were watching the WWDC, which is the Worldwide Developer Conference from Apple, and they announced this new AR Kit SDK that's coming out in iOS 11 and their new operating system, which just launched in September. And what it effectively did was, Tim Cook and everyone there really believes in AR. And what they wanted was the developers, all the millions of developers all around the world, to be able to start developing AR solutions easily, okay? And so if you're developing an AR solution, if you think about it, think about it in the world of, let's say, IKEA, right, where you're trying to show furniture in a space, right, which they have a great app that does that. Lighting matters, positioning of the furniture matters, and anchoring it to the floor so it's not floating all over the place. So what Apple effectively had to do was they created a grid system, okay, with a world coordinate system. And if I get too nerdy, just by all means jump in and tell me to
You're good so far.
Stop here. But it's pretty awesome. They created a massive grid system that basically, I could mark a spot in a room. Let's say I put a table in there. I walk out, come back in, and it's still there because this grid system allows for anchoring, right? So it knows where you were when you set the object down. You can leave and come back, and the sensors in the device know that you were there, and it does it because it's doing a bunch of different things. I mean, this is why Apple has done so well here. They took the hardware and they took the software and they blended it together, right? And this is why you see Microsoft building tablets themselves, right, with the operating system and the hardware. It's just so much easier when you own the hardware and the software side to roll out new and interesting functionality, and that's what they did. So now with the iPhone 6s or above, which has the chipset required and the processor required and the sensors in there, you can wave your phone. If you use the app, I think it's magic, right? You just wave your phone across the floor, then poof, suddenly you're able to measure everything. And a lot of that's been enabled by Apple because they're doing all the floor detection, and they do what they call the feature point detection. So for example, if you have a very feature-rich or textured floor, what it's doing is really looking at that floor, detecting the horizontal plane, and then using all the sensors to detect how high it is and everything else, and creating a grid system. And then gamers are using that to, do augmented reality gaming, put the castle in there. You can storm the castle, and that castle's at a specific location, right?
Right.
For IKEA, they're showing you what a sofa, a love seater. I can't even pronounce their furniture names. Anyway, yeah, right. What that looks like in the room, and then for us, creating that grid system. Of course, as you can imagine, once you have a grid system, you can measure on it. And so for us, it was nirvana. It was beautiful because we had spent 2 years really building out a photo-based system that does the exact same thing. And so now with the release of new SDK, it kind of eliminated the need for our photo-based system, at least for iPhones and for room planning.
Right.
And now we can just use it for tap, 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 and you're ready to go, and it's all automated, which is one of the cool things for us. So.
Now, and just pulling personal experience into this. I mean, about a year ago, I redid a house and did a lot of flooring, did a lot of things like that, and it's precision matters. I mean, to a point when you're actually kind of putting down new flooring. But when you're buying material, I understand that it can be you can be fuzzy by an inch or two. How accurate can people expect this app to be in its room measurements?
Yeah, it's a great question. So think about it. Like, there's no tape measure, there's no marker to give you scale. It's literally you just waving the phone along the ground, right, pointing at the floor. So what we've seen in our testing, we've seen between 98 to 99% accuracy, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I mean, we've done a time and motion studies on individuals using a tape measure, and across a 100-inch window doing the measurements, they'll screw up a quarter of an inch to a half inch, right?
Yeah.
Just as think about it, as a tape measure bows, and as it's hard to stretch your arm, things like that. So we would say that our solution, our photo solution, I would say for this thing, it's almost better than a tape measure put in the hands of a novice, somebody who's not a contractor. So 98 to 99% accurate is really, really darn good. The accuracy degrades a little bit, as you can imagine. The more you walk, so if you're doing a football field, it's going to be a little bit more off. It degrades the less texture you see. So if you're in an all-white room, so all white carpet, all white trim, all white wall, it's going to be difficult for it to pick up texture, right? So it can figure out the feature points and where it needs to, where the location it is. What else? Light light matters in this case. So if you're in a dark room, obviously you can't see that floor to set the initial floor plane.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some things that will impact accuracy, but on the whole, Ben, this thing is just, it's really amazing. Apple's done a great job enabling this for developers to work on, and we've done our best to kind of tweak as much as we can to create a very usable experience, and then improve the accuracy where we can.
Yeah, and it sounds like it works best in a room with contrast, where, like you said, it can kind of put that, that plane down and really measure it. So, I mean, and, I don't want to give anyone out there false hope. This thing isn't magic. It can't see through your sofa. You're probably gonna you're probably gonna have to empty the room to take measurements, or at least around the floor.
Well, what's interesting is, we've done a lot of usability on it, right? As you can imagine, and what you really need is just need to empty out the corners and be able to see the corners. So you can leave the furniture up against the wall if you think about it, because the way it works is it's effectively like stretching a line from one corner to the other, and so you really don't need to be able to see the whole perimeter of that wall, right? You just need to go from one end to the other, and then set the other line. So that's really all you have to do. So you don't have to move a ton of furniture around. You don't.
That's
have
pretty
to,
impressive.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's really neat, and I've seen, which is pretty funny. So there's a table against the wall. They'll crawl. I've seen people crawl under the table to make sure that the line, they're not doing the line on top of the table. But it's augmented reality. It doesn't matter, right? It's just an overlay in the real world, and that's kind of the definition of AR, right? It's you're looking through a screen at the real world, whereas in virtual reality, you're actually displaced, you're locked out, and you're actually experiencing a whole new world, closed off from the existing world that you're in.
Right.
And so that's one of the, to your point earlier about augmented reality, that's kind of one of the key learning points that we've been, the democratization of this AR and the rollout from ARKit from Apple is made it so simple for people to realize that, hey, I don't have to crawl underneath the table in order to measure that, right? It's just an overlay. It's a virtual overlay, augmented reality overlay.
But I mean, it's kind of natural because technology of the past has been so finicky that you had to kind of make it as perfect as humanly possible, and then you could get kind of the best measurements that you could. But you're saying kind of with this, it's you can have, there's some fuzziness, and through machine learning, through AI, through however you want to say, it will connect those dots. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. It will connect the dots.
That's right.
Super
That's
cool.
right.
So why don't we go ahead and, again, just kind of thinking about the possibilities for this, for an end user. You mentioned that other companies are trying to, help people essentially shop online, I think is, one of the biggest use cases, because, kind of like IKEA, you don't go into the showroom anymore. With your product, who are you kind of hoping is really going to, who are you hoping that this is going to catch on with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Apple really loved this app because of the ability for the consumer, and the practical usage of this consumer. So we want all consumers to use this. We want them to go and measure their room so that they can go into a Home Depot, a Lowe's, or another retail flooring store, Lumber Liquidators, and have all the information they need in order to measure. Alternatively, so that's great for those end users. Tile, all those measurement home DIY projects that you have where you need to get a floor plan, where you need to go figure out, okay, well, will this IKEA furniture fit? Well, I can go IKEA, I've got my floor plan, and I know exactly if it'll fit, right? Things like that. So all those DIY home product projects and remodeling projects, right? So that's one of our best users there. And then I think from the enterprise side, imagine you walk into a flooring shop, and let's say Home Depot, for lack of a better a term here. So you walk into Home Depot, and the first thing they're going to say is, well, what do you want? Well, I want some Pergo flooring. And they say, well, how much do you need? I have no idea. I've got 5 rooms, a hallway, and 2 floors. And they say, well, here's a piece of grid paper and a pencil. You have a tape measure? Sure. Yeah, I've got an old one that stretches for 3 feet. Go back and measure, right?
Right.
And think about that from an end user. That's friction. That's not
Yeah,
great, right? So they just lost that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, just kind of speaking to my personal experience, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to take a tape measure, and if I didn't have a second pair of hands, I was kind of pushing it along the floor to measure a 20-foot room. No, there's a lot of friction there.
Yep. And so what we've enabled for the enterprise is that person can take a card from Home Depot with the link on it, and they download PLNAR, and that link is registered to the retailer. Okay, and so when they go through the process of generating their floor plan, at the end of it, it will say, would you like to submit this project to the retailer? Okay, so we've enabled this remote lead capability so that I, as an online retailer or a brick and mortar retailer, can give this to my customers, and their PLNAR projects will be routed directly to me. So this is where my 20 years of enterprise kind of falls in. I wanted to make it super simple for these enterprises to be able to expand the usage of PLNAR to their consumers and their customers. So either whether you originate online or whether you originate in the store, you can use PLNAR and route it directly to that to the salesperson. So imagine I go home, I do the floor, I show up back at the retailer, and they already have all of my information right there in front of them. So they see the floor plan, room plan. I see you have 4 transitional areas on doors, so we're going to have to give you a couple different pieces here. I know how much trim you need. Bam, you're ready to go. Super easy, and you can do that online too.
Yeah, and that's in a minute here or two, we're going to talk about the different parts of the app because as you were just outlining there is the app that you get on your phone, and then there is the cloud part of this application, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Personally, and sometimes when it strikes me, I tell our guests how they should run their business, and I'll be honest with you, I would not be surprised if like a Zillow or kind of a real estate company purchased you or got involved with you, because it's when we were recently looking for a house, going from room to room, and you're like, well, how big is this room? And your realtor had to pull out a tape measure, or she had to guess, or or whatever they had to do. I mean, having something like this, and you walk into a room that you don't have the inclination to measure, and it's kind of new to you. Would an application for you kind of be good for kind of selling homes, showing new homes, things like that, or even listing homes?
I'm writing this down right now.
All right.
No, it's actually a really good idea. I mean, to be honest, given our pedigree and our history working with contractors, interior designers, and things like that, it was kind of a natural selection for us to just kind of pick up the phone call and call our existing customers and say, hey, we've got a really new, cool way to do it. And since we hadn't been marketing our previous solution for real estate and things like that, that wasn't because the app's been out for 3 weeks now, right?
Right.
But you are right. That is a great use case. I mean, think even in urban, especially in urban, right, where you're cranking through. Hey, how many square foot? Well, I don't have the floor plan. Let me just do this real quick. Oh, it's 1,200 square foot. And how big is this small room? Oh, great. My bunk beds will fit in there, or whatever you have. So that's a great use case.
Yeah, and again, it's something that we ran into. It's like we have a 6-foot bookshelf. Will fit against that wall. Blah blah blah.
Totally.
It's no. So again, you can take that home with you. So let's go ahead and go on and talk about the different parts of the app, because it seems like your phone is one. How much do you have to use the cloud portion, or how much functionality is in the cloud portion of this app?
The majority of it for a consumer use is on the app. Okay, so you don't have to be connected. It works all offline, which is great. That was kind of the idea. So you can just simply launch the app and go ahead and measure any and all of the rooms, and it's actually free to use, right? So there's a couple different elements of the application. There's the whole augmented reality element where you're going through and drawing the lines, creating the perimeter, things like that, and seeing the measurements there on the screen. So that's that's the coolest piece, obviously. That's the augmented reality piece, right? And so you're literally standing in your room and surrounded by all of the different lines and points and things like that show the measurements in augmented reality, and that is awesome, right? It's just, that's the oohs and ahs, right? And then once you're done with that, you can move into our file management space, right, where I can create one or more projects with one or more rooms. So let's say, I'm measuring my house. Well, I've got 6 rooms in the house. I can store all those rooms in that project. But if I go over to my parents' house, I can create a new project and I can store all of their information. And that all remains resident on the device. Okay.
Right.
So you are completely in control. Connectivity is not necessary, and you have it all at your fingertips right there. Now, if and you can also see a summary there in the file management, so you can get the total perimeter, you get area and things like that, and kind of a summary table, and that's awesome. That's all free.
Mm-hmm.
Then you move, so that's the second step. So the first step is augmented reality. The second step is all the file management capabilities, project management capabilities, if you will. And then the third step is the pro project, right? Creating a professional report. And so from there, what you can do is you generate a beautiful PDF, which summarizes all of the information from the app and puts it in PDF form, so you get all of the 2D visuals, you get all of the table summaries of all of the rooms, and all the metadata that you entered, for example, address, which it automatically looks up for you, property notes, things like that. And it all compiles it nicely into a beautiful PDF that you can send off to your decorator, that you can send off to your flooring company, that you can send off to whoever you want, right?
Right.
And since right now we have the whole thing free, eventually we're going to be launching here an app where you get one free pro project report, and then there'll be
trial.
you can for trial. And then, but all the stuff that I mentioned, the file management, the AR, that's all going to continue to be free. So you can still just, the use case that you mentioned, that realtor, he or she can just walk into any, if they've got clients with them, they can just measure the room in real time and just say, oh yeah, it's 1,100 square foot, and you're done, and you don't have to buy anything. So it remains very, very useful and practical. Has a lot of utility for everybody.
Yeah, and very cool that you mentioned the PDF. I was actually wondering about that because I personally, I don't even know the file format augmented reality data would be stored in, but I'm sure a lot of people don't have the proper software to run that kind of thing.
Right.
So you do PDF.
We make it simple, so that the PDF is generated, and it gives you all the measurements. And we're also about to launch something where we actually create a CAD file as well. So that's in the next, I want to say the next 72 hours. So be looking for a new update. And so you as a pro project user, you'll be able to not only get the PDF, but you also get a DXF. And a DXF is a very easily transferable digital file, which is a CAD file that all of the major remodeling solutions can import, right? And so if your designer says, hey, listen, that's great that you give me a PDF that gives me that 2D visual, but I'd also, be great if you could digitize it for me too. And so, boom, you just forward that off, and now your designer can import that into their 2020 program or their AutoCAD or Revit or whatever program they're using, and boom, they've got an immediate 3D model built out for them. So if you think about it, the steps you removed, paper and pen, grid, measurement, tape measure, then go over to your computer and somehow learn how to use a CAD file, a CAD drawing tool, which is impossible as it is, and then send it over to whoever your remodeler, friend, family, whoever it is. And so all steps, and then the final piece is a cloud system. The cloud system really comes into play if you're an enterprise. So that project is actually sent up to the cloud. Your entire team is notified. Your sales team is notified. Hey, new lead, new project, new information comes in. They log in. They download the CAD file, and they download the PDF, and they can see all of the information about that customer. And then they follow up separately and say, okay, hey, we've got your information now. We can move to the next step, and there's a purchase, or we'll automatically buy, or we'll start settling your claim there. So that's where the cloud comes in.
Very, very cool. Yeah, and actually, Andy, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind staying over for just a couple minutes to give this a proper send-off?
Absolutely.
Oh, perfect. So, everyone, we're talking to Mr. Andy Greff. He is the CEO of Smart Picture Technology. We are talking about an app called PLNAR, PLNAR. If you want to check it out, it's available in the App Store. Just downloaded it myself. And yeah, the music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about, the future of AR. Kind of where all this is leading, and I have a couple more questions. So, everyone, stay tuned. Computer America after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And the mic was muted. There we go. Welcome back to the Computer America Show. And it's 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here talking to Mr. Andy Greff. He is the CEO of Smart Picture Technology. And we're talking about PLNAR and PLNAR Pro. And by the way, Andy, your website is intoxicating. These dots, I can't stop.
But, you like that? I'll have to let our designer know. He was pretty excited.
Yeah. It's enjoyable. But no, and thank you for staying over. I wanted to ask you, of course, kind of the future where you see this going, because obviously, it's it kind of takes a lot of pain out of a lot of traditional kind of fields and things like that. So, and I think a good place to kind of ask you that is, I mean, where are you hoping to see, kind of PLNAR Pro go, and, kind of what gets you most excited about this project?
Oh, wow. Where would I like to see it go? Well, I'd love to see, obviously, mass adoption from consumers and enterprises using it. But really, I think the most important thing that could happen for us is just more acceptance and understanding of augmented reality. So it moves out of the Pokemon world, right, and moves into, hey, how do I use it in everyday life? And that's really where, and outside of gaming. I mean, I love games and things like that, but how do you take this technology that people are using and really get it to the masses, right? So the gaming obviously is only going to apply to a certain amount of people, but once you start using it into utility applications, because this is a utility application, then people will understand it and start using it. I started off kind of at the beginning saying that augmented reality is kind of a new thing, and one of the things that we struggled with was the usability and the UX around that. So one of the things I really hope that we're going to learn here is how the UX can be modified and all the new paradigms that are going to come out as a result of it, right? I mean, if you think about it, remember the hamburger and the hamburger menu and the black bar at the bottom of apps and things like that. So I'm really excited to see all the different usability and UX items that are going to come out and make it super easy for users to understand how it's used. I'll give you a great example. So
Sure.
When you use our application, there's a little target in the middle, and what that's actually called is the reticle. I had to learn that, right? So that's called the reticle. But that reticle is actually, in the VR world, that's actually a full menuing system that you can point over things and stuff pops up. So as you point it in certain directions, new and interesting things are supposed to occur. So in our system, when you point over a segment and when you point over an enclosed polygon, right, you can change various features of your augmented reality plan, right? And so that reticle becomes effectively a cursor, right? What people universally have referred to as a cursor, but it's something completely different because it's in your augmented reality space. So I think I'm super excited for that and the different UX metaphors that are going to come out as a result.
Yeah, and I could not agree more. I mean, we've been following, of course, Pokemon Go, and about 2 weeks ago we had another company on that made hardware for augmented reality, and they're like, thank goodness for Pokemon Go, because before I was like, oh yeah, I do augmented reality, and they go, what the heck is that? And it was a big long explanation. Nowadays you can just go, what's augmented reality? And you go, it's kind of like Pokemon Go, and it's like, oh, okay,
that's right.
I got you. So yeah, no, it's definitely reached the masses. I think you're right that it's needs to get to the point where gaming, it's there are choices for training. We've seen companies such as like UPS, and we've seen Google obviously trying to invest in it. Like training purposes and business purposes, they're definitely turned onto it. But for the average consumer, the idea that information is presented to you in a more natural way, that's the next step. And I think what you're doing with presenting information that, they would have no way of knowing, how do you know that wall is 16 or 18 feet? You're kind of the stepping stone for people realizing AR has real world applications outside of games.
Yeah.
So.
And it moves on to, visualization. It moves on to looking into, and visualization in this case is, what is that new wall going to look like? What is that carpeting going to look like? We're preferring to focus primarily on the dimensioning and the measurement, and how do we make that really amazing versus the visualization, because there's a lot of people getting into that. But I can see those two technologies obviously naturally merging, so that what's that pergo floor going to look like? What's a maple floor going to look like? Things like that, and it's just a natural progression, I think. So
right.
The visualization aspect, plus the contextual awareness of the room, is going to start merging together.
Right. So let's get into some of the more businessy things before we send you off. And so first things first, security, because later on in the show, we're going to do computer technology news. I'm not sure if you heard, but everyone out there, Equifax was compromised once again just today. And I don't know how much worse I can get. But security, it's a thing. People should be concerned with it. You have your own cloud service. I don't want to say that your floor plan is necessarily the biggest secret you should keep, but right. but sometimes people want to keep information that they provide kind of private. How do you handle security and data on your servers?
That's a great question. So having been in enterprise software for a long time, we're trying to avoid as much PII, personally identifiable information, as possible, right? When we send it up into the cloud, we use Azure. And so it is using all of the latest and greatest lockdown technology. We don't have any passwords necessarily in our solution quite yet. So the information is stored and locked down according to, we've worked with all of the Microsoft and Azure experts to lock this down and make sure it is in a place where a consumer could feel comfortable with the data going up into the cloud. And again, when you think about it, our cloud system, the data from that cloud really doesn't, data from the app doesn't go up until it's explicitly asked for by the user. Like, I want to generate that pro project. And now in that case, it goes up. Otherwise, if you're just sitting there and you're just using the application for free, then we're only grabbing non-identifiable information, just really about, hey, what's the, how many people are using it, how many projects have been created, things like that. Right. So there's a nice delineation there. And I hadn't heard that there was a subsequent Equifax breach either. So my goodness.
Yeah, and it's and again, everyone, we're going to get into this, but apparently one of their web pages was compromised. It redirects people to a Flash update, and it's a bogus Flash update that spams you with spam. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, easy target. But so we'll talk about that later. But getting back to yours, and I see here that obviously we've talked a little while about these pro projects. I guess you decided against the idea that you have an account, maybe you're a contractor, you are, someone who does flooring, blah, blah, blah. It seems like you decided against, this is something I need, so I'm going to pay a monthly subscription for my membership. And you've kind of set this up, as far as I can understand it, as, this is a project, this is for a customer. That's where the money's going to come into play when you order 20, 50, 100 projects. Why did you decide to go away from like a membership and towards a kind of project, as need basis?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have bundles out there on the pro site, so you can buy 10, 50, or 100.
Right.
As far as projects, and so the reason that's out there is because again, we just launched them 3 weeks ago. Now, if you think about this is a great business question. So when you think about the ROI from the company perspective, right? How much more money do they make and or save? It's on both top line and bottom line. If the consumer reaches out online and the whole transaction is processed without somebody having to go out, or if they have to send a person out and they're using our application to dimension their solution, but they still send a field salesperson out nonetheless, and that person uses our PLNAR app and they dimension the thing and it automatically generates all the data that they need. The ROI without having this and the cost, without having to send somebody out is much better. The ROI is much better. They reduce the amount of cost. They get higher margin. If they have to send somebody out, that person's time is optimized using our solution, but the ROI isn't as big. So we've chosen initially to focus on this project-based approach where they can buy a bundle of projects to give to their consumers to use. We do have a number of people that have asked, listen, I've got field tech guys that go out and do hundreds of projects, a month. Can I just buy a subscription? Of course, yeah. We do have a subscription model, so and that's just not front and center on that page. So, if you do want an unlimited thing, then we can absolutely move to a subscription because, as you know, we're a SaaS company, cloud SaaS company. That's where the investors love to see things, and we definitely want to move into a full subscription. But I think if you look at both sides of that coin, one, we want to make sure the field salespeople love our solution and they use it. But two, we're trying to move into that virtual, dimensioning world where there isn't that person that has to go on site. They don't have to buy that truck. They don't have to, they can be carbon neutral or carbon efficient, if you will, right? It's a green solution for all intents and purposes, right? Yeah. And they don't have to send somebody out to go and do all of the work that they had to do before.
Yeah,
they can increase their revenues.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that obviously for a lot of people out there, the phone specs that you have, 6S and above, the 8 just came out, the 10 just came out, and of course I'm sure every subsequent generation of phone is going to be compatible. It's just the proliferation of that technology again is going to make all this so much easier. So I think with that, Andy, great conversation. This was super interesting.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on, Ben.
Yeah, this was great. And by the way, I actually have a room. I'll probably reach out to you later and let you know how it went. But I downloaded it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bit of a different kind of room, just to kind of give just everyone out there listening as well. I didn't ask you about this because I don't think there's a lot of use cases, but personally, it's a room that has a curved wall, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
so
it does, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna measure that. I'm gonna see how it works, but I'll let you know.
It'll work on the curved walls as long as you can just tap a bunch of different spots on it. But we're going to add contours and things like that as we go on. I kind of just want to trickle out the features as we go along, right? To keep people looking forward to the new stuff.
Absolutely. So, and folks, if you want to find out more about anything that we talked about, please head on over to pro.planar, PLNAR.co. You can find that there. And PLNAR in the App Store. You can check it out there as well. So, Andy, one last time, thank you so much, and looking forward to having you guys back on. This was great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the time.
All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
All right, there he goes, everyone. So, that was super interesting, and again, something I'm probably going to try myself. I'll let everyone know how that went, but still super interesting. So, before we get going, and before we kind of do our thing here. Let me see. Oh, I just had it. There we go. Got it. So before we do that, we actually have a message from one of our sponsors, and throw that up on the video portion as well. Why not? So this is from one of our sponsors. This is from ZipRecruiter. That's right. So in need, and hey, this may be you, where you might be in need of a great talent for your business, but you might be short on time. It's a big problem. Or you don't have, and of course, you don't have to get lost in a huge stack of resumes to find the perfect hire. And of course, you just need the right platform and the right tools. And hey, that's where ZipRecruiter comes in. Where with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 plus 100 plus job sites with a single click. That's right, all the leading ones. So you can rest easy knowing that your job is being seen by the right candidates, where then ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting. So you receive the best possible matches. Imagine if they took this technology and gave it to dating sites. But so that's why ZipRecruiter is different, where unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you. Instead, it finds them. Again, saving you time and hassle. Where you can even get a head start on the interview process by, let's say, if you need a very specific question or a very specific set of skills, well, you can make that a priority. And hey, you don't have to, kind of shift through all those resumes that don't fit the match right off the bat. So it's no wonder why 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just 1 day. Pretty awesome. And the easy-to-use ZipRecruiter dashboard lets you manage your hiring process from start to finish, all in one place. And of course, that's why ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. So for our listeners, for any of you listening out there who maybe you are looking for someone to help you out in your office, or you're looking for a new hire and it's super technical or super specific, hey, we got you covered. ZipRecruiter.com/computer. ZipRecruiter.com/computer. And hey, maybe just what you're looking for. And again, you can check it out. And hey, your first job listing is free. So once again, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, ZipRecruiter, and looking forward to that. All right, so in the meantime, everyone, let's go ahead and continue on to computer and technology news, because like I said, we have a couple articles I'm just dying to get to. So here we go, computer and technology news, brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. All right. So I think a good place to start would be one that we were just talking about, where Equifax, they're in it again, and they're in it deep. Because, when you're down and out, well, who am I kidding? They're not out. They're flourishing, even though they've compromised, 143 million Americans. Well, they've just been compromised again. Although not in the same way, not in some kind of malicious, it's malicious for sure, but not in a way that compromises their databases and things like this. No, this is more of a networking thing. So here we go, saying that, and this is by Dan Gooden from Ars Technica, and saying that in May, of course, Equifax, their website was breached, and for some 145 million Americans, I guess the numbers have changed, they, lost all of your personal information. And for several hours on Wednesday, that'll be, just yesterday, and again early this morning, the site was maliciously manipulated once again, but this time to deliver fraudulent Adobe updates, which then clicked infected visitors' computers with adware that was detected by only 3 of 65 antivirus providers. So obviously a new-ish form of adware. And so, Randy Abrams, an independent security analyst by day, happened to visit the site on Wednesday evening to check what he said was false information he had just found on his credit report. And eventually, his browser opened up a page to the domain. And here's everyone out there listening, in the address bar to the left of any address you type, there's going to be HTTP or HTTPS. HTTPS, of course, S standing for secure. That is what you want to watch for. But this address that the Equifax website was redirecting to was HXXP. centerblueray.info. Unless they just did the access to, kind of break the link, but whatever. Essentially, centerblueray.info, obviously nothing to do with Equifax, nothing to do with any of the sort. And yeah, redirected you to a Flash update. And I think a lot of people out there, Flash, it needs updated quite often because it has so many security flaws that people just click on it. And when you do, it downloads and installs adware onto your computer. Not a good look for Equifax. And they said that the file that got delivered when Abrams clicked the link is called media downloader iron.exe. This is a virus total entry, shows only Pandas, Symantec, and WebRoot, detecting the file as adware. And that this separate malware analysis, they said that is highly, they say it takes great pains to conceal itself from reverse engineering. So Malwarebytes flagged the Center Blu-ray Info site as one that pushes malware, while both ESET and Avira provided similar malware warnings for one of the intermediate domains, which can be found there. But essentially, they said, I don't think we're gonna get into this anymore because we pretty much have, kind of what it's designed for. But everyone, the information was not stolen. It was not yet again another breach of the personal information. Rather, it was more of a networking thing. Someone was able to insert some kind of code that would redirect people to a fake Flash update. People would update it and yada, yada, yada. That's how you're doing. And by the way, since this story broke, there has been an update from Equifax saying that they are looking into it. And they've taken the page offline that was infected, and they'll let everyone know after they have it resolved. So, there you have it. Equifax. Can't catch a break. It is what it is. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and and again, there's a couple of stories here that are super, super cool. And I think the coolest one is right here. Folks, this is probably the biggest news of the day, and I am super excited for this because autonomous cars, and this according to The Verge, by the way, everyone, Andrew Hawkins. The Verge reporting that autonomous cars without human drivers will be allowed on California roads starting next year. That's right. And they're saying that about 42 companies are now testing 285 self-driving cars in the Golden State. This is awesome. So they said that the California Department of Motor Vehicles, that's right, the DMV, actually doing something, will allow autonomous cars without steering wheels, foot pedals, mirrors, and human drivers behind the wheel to be tested on its roads starting next year. Let that sink in. We've been hearing about the idea of self-driving cars that drive themselves. And it's like, oh, 2019, 2020, Mercedes is going to come out with it in 2023. We've been hearing these dates that are not too far off, 5 years down the line. Folks, we have a change. Middle of 2018, companies are going to be allowed to at least test their cars on public roads. Now, that doesn't say that you are fully going to be able to buy an autonomous car, but it's going to be the next best thing. So, and really, when I say the next best thing, no steering wheel, no foot pedals, no mirrors, no human drivers. Essentially, you get in, you sit down, and you shut up. That is probably what cars are going to look like in the coming years. But we'll see. So, California is an obvious hotbed for autonomous vehicle testing. So, changes made to the state's rules governing these tests are followed closely by companies like Google and Uber that are developing fleets of self-driving cars for public use. And that there are currently 42 companies testing 285 autonomous vehicles. And they say that nearly 1,000 safety drivers are licensed to test those vehicles. But after the state rules go into effect, companies would be allowed to deploy cars without humans behind the wheels. That's going to lead to a lot of pictures, I'm betting. That you can pull up to a stoplight and you're going to be able to see a vehicle just as big as you, right next to you, that has no humans whatsoever involved in its piloting. That's both creepy, scary, and as futuristic, I think, as you can get. This is a huge change. So they said that the rules are a stark departure from the original proposal back in 2015, where they said that they put the kibosh on autonomous vehicles without a human driver. That's why you see whenever autonomous cars are being tested, they have an engineer sitting behind the wheel ready to take hold of the wheel in case something happens, but usually they're sitting back with a tablet and they're monitoring stats. They're really not doing anything that they couldn't do from an office somewhere. And yeah, I guess they said that in May the agency reversed itself and putting out a new proposal that would not only allow for the testing of self-driving cars without a human driver, but also regulate the manufacture and sales of fully autonomous vehicles. So instead of kind of being a hindrance, they saw that they were going to other states, they were going to other cities that were more receptive to the idea. And California's kind of doing an about face from where it was a couple years ago. Very, very cool to see. So they said that, to be sure, this isn't a clear path for a fully autonomous vehicle to overrun the streets of California, where manufacturers would still need to receive approval or a waiver for exemption from the federal government before operating a vehicle on public roads without a human driver or conventional controls like a steering wheel or pedals. I think that that's probably quite a ways off. This idea that you have these pods shuttling people around, they're probably going to be more of a Tesla kind of approach where the car is going to drive itself autonomously, 60% of the time. And then on city streets, in school zones, things like that, the driver will be prompted to take the wheel. It's probably going to be more of that. And then eventually down the road, we'll see these cars that are not driven by anyone. They'll be used for kind of grunt work, they'll be used for deliveries, they'll be used for transit, kind of picking people up and dropping people off, public transit. They'll be used for that kind of thing, or, kind of like an Uber or Lyft replacement. And then the personal car that you go out, that you buy, those are still going to be cars, but they're going to be slowly phased into full automation. So that's where we're at, and California laying down the rules. Saying that, and the article wraps up by saying that Congress is considering increasing federal motor safety vehicle standards exemption caps from 2,500 to 100,000, which is a wonky way of saying that it would allow automakers and tech firms to test and deploy tens of thousands of autonomous vehicles without components designed with human in mind and require a federal safety standard. They're pushing hard. They're pushing hard for this eventuality. So I think with that, some other stories that we did not get a chance to get to include Bitcoin surging past $5,000 for each individual Bitcoin. That's super impressive. LG is going to be building batteries in Europe, and they're going to make the largest electric vehicle battery plant in Europe next year. Super cool. Airbnb, we've heard it once, and they're doing it 5 more times. Airbnb has officially started renting out entire condo complexes and apartments. That's right, to Airbnb users. They are now landlords. It's a thing. Also, NBA will broadcast in VR this season, and talk about Equifax and the FCC doing some befuddling with the idea of competition. So, maybe we'll talk about some of this tomorrow. But tomorrow, if you're joining us, where today was all about measurements and computer-aided design, well, you're going to be excited for tomorrow because we have the one, the only, Mr. Ralph Bond talking all about Autodesk and stories related to that and very, very cool futuristic computer and technology news. So tune in tomorrow, again, same time, same place, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday here I want to say once again, thank you to PLNAR for joining us on the show. It was a lot of fun and looking forward to having them back on. If you want to find out more about Computer America, check out our website, computeramerica.com, and check out our videos, our live archives, and of course our podcast, which can be found on the likes of iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, wherever good podcasts are heard. So until next time, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.